everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. I'm coming to you from cold and blustery Spokane, Washington, where the hardiness zone ranges from 5B to 6A. Now it's still too early by a long shot for planting our warm season crops, but boy have I got a great topic for you this week, and that is vertical plant supports. You know, they do so many things for our plants and for us, and I want to show you what we have done in our garden because I always get a lot of great reviews on the types of structures we're using. So I'm going to show you those today and explain the rationale behind them. So why are vertical plant supports so important? Well, first of all, if you're growing tomatoes, by having the foliage up off the soil, you will have fewer issues with plant diseases. And also, the fruits will ripen more easily because they'll have good air circulation around them. That's a plus. Vertical plant supports can make it easier to harvest some of our crops. That's always nice. And they look really cool in the garden, so I like that. You also can sometimes squeeze in a few more plants by using vertical supports, so that's a plus in my book as well. And you might find this interesting. If you grow winter squash, pumpkins, and cucumbers up off the ground on a vertical support, you are less likely to have problems with squash bugs because they want to be down on the soil under the plant leaves. If those vines are going up a support, they are not going to bother your plants. I thought I'd start out with our bean arbor because that's always everybody's favorite part of our vegetable garden. And you know, I used to use just a traditional bean support for growing pole beans, and it was really hard to see where the beans were in the vines. I always had to stand out in the hot sun during the summer while I was harvesting them. And one year the light bulb came on and I thought, what if I could get some kind of a support that would go up and over a pathway in our garden where I could stand in the shade, harvest the beans. You know, maybe the beans will hang on the inside. You know, my mind was just going a mile a minute at that point. And so I thought, I'm going to give that a try next growing season. So we happened to go to our local Kroger's in their garden center. They had these arbors or trellises on sale at the beginning of the growing season for 50% off. I could not believe my luck. So I bought 4 of them because our beds are 8 feet long, and that is what I ended up doing, was just putting in a series of 4 of the trellises. And this is such a fantastic way to support beans. And yes, the beans hang down on the inside, and during the summer when it's hot and I need to harvest beans, I'm in the shade of the vines underneath. So I'll show you a few photos here so you can see how it all progresses. But this is a very easy way to support pole beans. I've also used it to grow cucumbers. And this type of an arbor or trellis is quite easy to find at garden centers. They tend not to be terribly expensive. This is made of powder coated steel. We have had this since 2008. Here we are, 2024, and it's holding up beautifully. So I heartily recommend creating your own bean arbor. And you know, you can just do it with 1 trellis. So it doesn't have to be this long, but we are really into beans, so it's just a perfect solution for us. This is our squash arbor, and we use it for growing winter squash, pumpkins, and cucumbers. Now you can also grow melons on here, but I have a word of warning, and that is that you want to support their weight as they're growing with some type of a mesh sling. And that's because when they start ripening, that melon pulls away from the vine, and I could just see it going kasplat on the ground, and you don't want that to happen. And this is the setup that I was talking about for foiling those pesky squash bugs. The arbor is made up of two separate livestock or cattle panels, as they're often called. It's made of galvanized wire, so it is lasting beautifully for us. And what we needed supply-wise to make this, in addition to the panels, was six 6-foot-long sticks of rebar for pounding down on the outside because there's so much outward pressure on this. We also needed bolt cutters because we took off the lowest run of wire, and that was so we would have spikes to push into the ground. And then when we move this, we use ratcheting tie downs to hold this together, because boy is there outward pressure on this. So that way we can move this very safely. Now I've got some video that I shot recently of us moving this, and so I'll show you that next so you get a better idea of how we do that. One other thing that I wanted to explain is why we move this around in our garden. Every year we grow our crops in different beds, and that is a great way to eliminate or greatly reduce problems with plant diseases or problem insects. So we rotate where everything grows, and that means that this arbor gets moved to 2 other beds every single year. Let's talk about tomato cages. And I know this looks weird. I'm sitting behind it so you can see it because it's pretty hard to see it without some kind of contrast behind it. So first of all, do not buy those flimsy little wire cages that you can find everywhere for hardly any money. It is not even worth the price that they're selling them for. That's because they are so flimsy. The first time you have a windstorm or your tomato plant is getting heavy with fruits, plus you know those tomato plants are going to grow beyond the tops of those cages, the plant is going to topple over, the fruits are going to break off, the roots are going to get ripped out of the ground, and that is not a good deal. So I wanted to show you what Bill and I made quite a few years ago with some leftover field fence. It is 4 feet tall. You can see the openings are large, which makes it easy to go in and get some fruits. And this worked really well for us for many years. The thing that I want you to know about using any kind of tomato cage, no matter how sturdy it is to always, and I'm going to say it one more time, always put a sturdy stake on the inside of the cage and tie the tomato cage to that stake so that you do not have any problems like I just described. It is definitely worth your time to do it. Now I want to show you what we've been using for the last several years for growing our tomatoes up, and that has worked really great too. So this is the way we support our tomatoes now. We've been doing it for years and it works great. This is a 4 foot tall by 8 foot long sheet of concrete reinforcing wire. It's very sturdy, and we support it with 2 heavy duty metal fence posts. And then what I do is I usually plant 5 tomatoes per 8 foot long bed, and so I'll alternate with putting them in on either side of the wire at different spacing. And then as the tomato plants grow up, I use some twine to just keep pulling them back in towards this wire frame so that no long branches bend from the weight of the fruits or whatever. So this works really great, and I shot a video of how we put this up today, so I want to show you that next. Now, one last thing about supporting tomatoes. If you're growing your tomatoes in large pots, consider buying a vertical support along the lines of what you see here. When you keep your plants off the soil, again, you're going to greatly reduce chances of disease and insect issues, plus the fruits are going to ripen better. So this is an option that you might consider. One last thing. Remember that you can use pruned branches, either from your yard or perhaps from a nice neighbor, to support different types of plants within your vegetable garden. So in this photo you can see we've used pruned fruit tree branches to support our peas. That is a nice free support. Okay, what do you think? Was that a helpful video? I certainly hope so. If you liked the video, remember to hit that like button and remember to subscribe to my channel. Hit the notifications bell because that way you know exactly when I have uploaded a brand new video. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. Happy gardening.